Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining the Innovation in Research Tech Showcase. We've got a really great lineup today, but before we dive into that, I have Lenny here with me, who's just going to give a brief overview of the topic and what today is going to look like. Before I hand it on over to Lenny, I just want to remind you guys of a few things. First, we've got that chat box. Let us know where you're tuning in from. And then, of course, we have that Q&A box. If you have any questions, you can drop them in there. Lenny, I will hand it on over to you.
Hey, thanks, Bridget. And hi, everybody. Glad you are here for our Insights Tech Showcase of Automation and Research 101. So thought we'd do something a little bit different and give you some background to kind of set the stage and context for the topic. And of course, most of this is going to be coming from Grit. So hopefully that will give you a little more confidence. It's not just Lenny bloviating. There's actual data here. So first, research automation is not new, right? We even go back to automation with Excel when it supplanted Lotus 1-2-3. Effectively, technology has been automating this for a very long time. Its evolution is driven by increasingly sophisticated solutions for increasingly complex problems. We've got full service DIY platforms where only tools once exist. We've got AI that is supplanting mechanical processes. Technology has continued to just drive this automation process. And the rule of thumb has been technology inexorably tries to create efficiencies by removing time constraints. And often that means things that humans have to do manually, and to make that happen in a more automated processes. And we've seen that. Obviously, one of the early components were in production of crosstabs, platforms like SPSS. Then we moved into text analytics and analyzing unstructured data, dashboards for sharing data. And over the last probably 5 to 7 years, we began to see this evolution from kind of DIY platforms into automated platforms that were highly templated. So you wouldn't have to necessarily design an ad test, for instance. Instead, they utilize best in breed approaches and methodologies and question structures to basically make it an off the rack processes. And of course, we're in this brave new world where, who knows? Are we going to get to the point where where even human research subjects are not necessary? Things like synthetic sample, those are merging methods that we'll see where we get to. But effectively, it's about creating efficiency one way or the other and leveraging technology to do that. It is absolutely mainstream. So in the next Grit report that will be coming out here shortly, we see that 75% of brand side insights professionals have significantly automated. This is the process we've been tracking for quite some time. And the low-hanging fruit has been in text analysis, social media analysis, survey data analysis, charting infographics. Again, we look all the way back to things like Wincross and SPSS and those technologies. Obviously, that was very easy to adapt. Of course, as we now look at the integration of AI into Microsoft Office or into Power BI and in those solutions, that's only accelerating this process. We also see a lot of adoption of AI for, again, almost nearly half of text analytics. More than a third are leveraging it for image, video, and social media analysis, so unstructured data. And usage among suppliers is strong, but it varies by the service focus. We see more adoption in tech platforms, for instance, than necessarily in field and tab. But everybody is somewhere on this journey of adopting automation across the board. It is a strategic imperative. This is not just a tactical business process efficiency play. It increases speed to deliverables. For many suppliers, it is obviously a competitive advantage, but for brands, it is as well. That speed and cost efficiency to get to insights is a competitive advantage for them. It's doing more with less in an era of economic turbulence. As companies look at how can they streamline, then automation certainly is a way to achieve that. And it is transformative to processes across the organization. It's not just isolated to research. If we look at kind of adjacent categories, and one really good example would be within media and advertising. I mean, automation is far ahead of research in how they are transforming processes. We're going to see more of that with the continual sophistication and evolution of artificial intelligence, which is another form of automation, kind of on steroids, doing more work that traditionally a person would have to go through multiple steps to do. And it is creating those efficiencies of scale and throughput. And anyone can benefit. This is not limited to simply large brands with massive budgets. Anyone can do this. It can help you sustain research volume despite budget reductions, to increase volume to meet demand, to gain competitive advantage, we've already discussed, overcome systemic disadvantages you may have. Maybe it's access to skilled workers in your location, or to look at how do you collect data and do things internationally when you don't have a physical presence internationally. We have assumed that we would get to the point where it allows you to carve out time for more value-added activities. We haven't seen those gains as much as we would have liked to have seen over the past few years, but I still think that we're going to get there. So far, it has been really a throughput process. It has increased our bandwidth. So we're doing more of the same, but the holy grail has been obviously for insights professionals to be more consultative and to engage more deeply with the business in helping to address business issues. And there are signs that that is certainly happening, that is a more of a long benefit that has been occurring with automation. And of course, one of the biggies is new capabilities, doing things that we couldn't do before, and allowing staff to learn new skills to do that. One of the best examples of that would be the ability to utilize unstructured data. And when we think about it from a research standpoint, this has been a boon for qualitative. We are seeing the growth of qualitative overall across the board, because automation is allowing for the to deal with kind of the I'm sorry, I'm trying to think of the engineering term, but it's not mine. But it's been a pain in the butt to deal with unstructured data, right? For transcripts and video, et cetera, et cetera. And that is now being dealt with. So it is allowing us to do more with more qualitative research and working on those type of skills around, ethnography, moderating, anthropology, et cetera, because we can simply manage the data more effectively on the back end at a similar scale that we can with quant. It is across the board, many different activities, sample, survey design, fielding, analysis. It's not just impacting one specific component or phase of the research process. We are seeing lots of applications around brand and campaign tracking and reporting. Of course, we've seen that for quite some time when you look at kind of web analytics, and now we're seeing it more within the directed process of research. We are seeing applications in crowdsourcing and predictive tools, as we already talked about, analysis of structured and unstructured data, A/B testing, IHUTs, the entire research process end to end. And as we just talked about, particularly in qualitative, moderating, fielding, translating, taking unstructured data, making it actionable, distributing that into the organization for decisions. It's just across the board. So there is no putting this genie back in the bottle. There's always going to be specific niche activities that today are more human driven, and will probably likely remain more human driven. One example would be sensory testing, for instance. Right? We need to get people into a room. They have to test things, touch it, taste it, smell it, and that data will still has to be collected in specific ways. Although even then, we can expect to see those front end of the process and back end of the process efficiency gains, even if the actual data collection is still, let's call it analog or old school, for lack of a better term. And certainly if the metaverse folks have their way, then at some point we may have a future where even that is primarily digital input and therefore to be automated. I think we're a long way from that, but you could see at least the potential to get there at some point. If you've seen the movie Ready Player One and the haptic sensors, those things are real. They do exist. They're very expensive. They're very inefficient. But at some point, we may even get there. So, what are the best strategies? And here's the way that we see within grit data. Certainly, a piece of it that's not fun to talk about, but is staff reductions. And we would prefer that folks think about this from the standpoint of not that you can reduce staff because of automation, but if you've had to reasons, then automation can help lighten the load, the burden and the impact of that. And another way to think about it is staff size increases or increased outsourcing to handle more work, so that you're keeping the higher value folks that are more strategic, that are the thinkers, that are designers versus process oriented approaches where automation really does shine in dealing with processes. If you look at this within your organization, it can be some tough decisions for managers to think about how to assign those tasks to that balance snap between internal, external, and technology. But it's all about ROI, and you're going to have to look at the cost benefit analysis in each of those cases. But as you are looking at the changing face of operational components of the research organization, the automation certainly is part of that consideration set. And it goes back to that idea that hopefully what we see happen is rather than reduce staff, instead we're reallocating staff to higher value pieces of the research process that today humans are still the ones that can do that most efficiently and effectively. Innovation, ideation, conceptualization, strategic thinking, intuition even plays a role in the research process, as we know. And those are human characteristics that we're not there where we see automation really making a dent in that yet. Now, going through that process, how do you find the right solution? There are obviously different considerations depending upon your organization. We think of it as, what are you trying to accomplish? Is it to reduce costs? Is it to increase throughput? Is it to add new capabilities? Or some combination of factors? And you're going to have to weigh that out and look at what that means for your organization. How do you want it to impact staff? Does it mean staff reductions or increases? Growth in skill and value, as we just mentioned. Is it reallocating resources versus reducing resources? What tasks or processes can benefit the most? Is it rote mechanical tasks, let's say chart production, for example? Or is it to replace or augment more skill-based intelligent work, such as driving insights, writing reports? There are platforms today that literally can generate all of the outputs for a basic presentation automatically. But it's not going to necessarily talk about the insights. And that, we would argue, is still the domain of humans. But it's certainly that process of creating a PowerPoint deck, for instance, for presentation, that can now be pretty much fully automated. And it's been available to do that for quite some time. And what new stuff comes up? How do we focus on new tasks or processes that can drive more value, more impact across the research process? And also based on your own organizational makeup. Do you have a lot of early in their tenure and experienced staff, novices, and you want to empower them to make sure that they're doing good quality research? Or do you want to democratize research across your organization? Certainly something that we see very clearly within the GRIT data, that insights is no longer just the domain of the insights organization. And often we see it spread around brand and marketing and product, et cetera, et cetera. So automation is certainly a contributor in thinking through all of those components. It does carry risk. Transformation is never easy and it can be scary. You can use it to complement existing processes. That may be relatively low risk, but if you're really looking at creating something revelatory and transformative within your organization, ROI can be different depending upon what we're looking to. The impact on staff, suppliers, what is the cost of the technology solutions, all those things need to be weighed out. Does the technology already exist? Maybe an issue of learning from testing and then going through a phase gate process to scale it within your organization. Can it be developed cost effectively in-house? 2 years ago, that answer may have been a no, but because of the impact of generative AI in code writing, the answer may be yes now. That could be something that could be done, that could be more bespoke for your organization. And in general, what is the appetite for risk at your organization? And that is going to vary by company over and over again. We would say that in doing that, have confidence. That is key. You're going to learn a lot as you go through this, and as you learn, you will gain that confidence and understand how it works, what it costs, direct and indirect costs, reliability, the value of the outcomes, and you'll be able to tweak this process as you go. Obviously, it's going to vary across the board. It's going to vary by the type of solution. Data processing, for instance, and chart production versus primary data collection, excuse me, or even really kind of riding the bleeding edge of utilizing synthetic sample and tools like that. But overall, we think that you're going to see here during this tech showcase some examples of finding the right solution for you. All the companies that are presenting have variations of the automation play. All of the tech showcases throughout the year, that is our goal, is to give you a sense of the type of solutions that are available across any business issues, so you can evaluate these, the ability to those solutions to transform or complement what you're doing today. So start with the vision. How's the ROI going to vary across your organization with your specific needs? Apply rigor, just like we evaluate anything else. So have a plan. Here's the KPIs that we're going to look at in evaluating solutions and what we're looking for, and continue to refine as you go. So hope that was helpful. We called this a master class. I'm not sure that it was masterful, but at least wanted to give you a little framework in how to think about the solutions you're about to see and apply this as we go through this really exciting and interesting transformative time as an industry. So that's it. Everybody take care. Enjoy the rest of this Insights Tech Showcase. Bye-bye.